scientist who's studying this study of whatever sort of cellular division, that cells are going to continue its they're going to continue its process over and over and over until there's a change in nature. And there's no reason to think that it will change if it hasn't in the past. But be surprised if it does. And then this is, of course, where we get to Humean accounts of, how he defines miracles out of existence with natural laws and things. But I'll get to there. Right now, it's just interesting to I guess, or fascinating is a better word, to place science within its philosophical category of knowledge. We have facts, we have empirical observations that we've seen, recorded, hypothesized, made the intelligent guess, and then finally concluded from all of our analysis over and over and over of it, to put it in a tablet and call it a fact. And so these facts that we obtain, these empirical facts, are some instances of knowledge, but now applying that knowledge of facts about the world rather than just, let's say, Kant's distinction of analytic facts versus the synthetic. Analytic, that being propositions, are necessarily true if the statements, the assertions are true, and that's known, that in itself as one thing. And then synthetic, of course, being the empirical observations, the things that tell us about the external world, things about, usually that are informed by our experience, a posteriori, and then a priori would be some synthetic arguments that originate prior to and by necessity these other synthetic arguments that are a posteriori. Fuck. Okay. Okay. That being said, I was going to now see how the physical bodies that we observe in nature, and understanding these physical bodies with the facts that we have construed, and now looking at the Big Bang model and looking how all of the empirical synthetic evidence that we have obtained thus far in giving us credence to this theory, I still suppose that the cosmological argument, the beginning of everything, of space and time, and to the extent that we believe the general relativity theory, which should be pretty well accepted, space and time being warped, that is, I get to wondering a lot about dimensionality. And Rob Bryanston, I think was his name. I used to watch him a lot. I used to be a big fan on YouTube, listening to all the 10th dimension videos, and of course he's no PhD person about physics. I think that's what he said. Anyhow, he nonetheless was deeply fascinated layperson who was a free thinker, so to speak, and contributed to that field. But anyhow, got me into thinking about dimensionality, and so I got a book on Rudy Rucker called Infinity in the Mind. Yeah, and I'm still reading it. I'm halfway through it. It's a very interesting book. And then there's another book called Hypercube and Hyperdimensions, Volume 1 and 2. I've only got Volume 1. And all of these hint at the mathematics and the existence of higher dimensionality through mathematics, and also its relation with our physical facts and synthetic evidence. So the cosmological argument is interesting in many facets, and dimensionality always concerned me as far as, is time a dimension? Because to be at the very beginning, the first cause, the primary cause that let off the cause of causation, all the physical sequences of patterns that we observe in physics, from one billiard ball to the next, from Newtonian to quantum mechanics and how things are said to work, if we follow a sort of causation chain, if time could be a multi-layered dimension, what are the implications of that, and how we construe the beginning? If, say, we look at Rob Bryanston's idea about the beginning, I had another thought about, put that aside for a second, I'm sorry. Rudy Rucker has another interesting thing to say about the beginning and time, and that's that the universe exhibits infinite features, and that there are different types of infinities, like infinitesimals, which is one is conceptual. I'm going to break away from Rudy Rucker's distinctions and kind of give my own to my understanding of it, but infinitesimals into conceptually, we could break it into one category, is where you could think of a line from here to there, and then note there's a midpoint. Here's the Aristotelian, I think, old paradox. I think Zeno's paradox, I forget. And then you look from now this midpoint to this midpoint, there's another one, and so goes the infinitesimal conceptually. And then there's also the physical one, where it also includes, of course, your capacity to conceptualize of it, but nonetheless, you could draw it out and conceive of it visually. So you could draw the midpoint out, draw it on a chalkboard, and you could see it, and you could further imagine if you were to continue being smaller and smaller and somehow make yourself into a microscopic organism and scale down and experience the infinitesimal of the universe. There seems to be evidence, and I don't recall the evidence, but I know they're in the books that I'm reading. I just need to sharpen up on that so I could better inform. But I believe from these books there are some evidence that show the validity of such arguments that talk about infinitesimals and the ability that the universe has to never really end in scaling inward or outward. The scaling outward's a little different, I think, then, because to my scientific knowledge, as far as high at its height as far as it extends, when we look into the night sky and we look at stars, light is traveling at a constant speed. Now that light eventually will reach our eyes. Like the stuff around me, everything I perceive, the color, every form of light energy ray is beaming towards my eye at a constant, I think 1,600 miles per. I forget, whatever. There's a constant rate at which it's coming at me. So when I'm looking at light super far away, outside in the galaxy, that's traveling, and that takes time to reach. So what I'm receiving is old light. If I were to be in that vantage point and looking back at Earth, I would probably see the dinosaurs through a large telescope, because I'm receiving old light from Earth back that way. So anyway, given that we look out into the edges of the universe, it's almost like we're looking back in time. We are looking back in time, says the theories of how light works and things. And so we're able to see so far as the microwave background. And the microwave background is said to be, the origins of how the universe started, the gas soup, everything, all the particles were in. And so it's really like looking into the past when looking far away. So, interestingly enough, if we were to, theoretically, obviously this almost frankly seems impossible, but not looking into, but actually going out to the outskirts of the universe, what sort of nature does the universe exhibit? This has always remained a curious fascination. I'm pretty sure I remember from the last physics video I saw. I guess this still remains monopoly over scientific facts. As far as what we're able to receive from the Hubble telescopes and things. What is the sort of space-time plane we are experiencing? Anyway, I think I'm going a little too far into this cosmological argument. Into the landscapes about just the features of the cosmological argument. I didn't really talk about the argument too much. The cosmological argument, I'll say it now at the end, this introduction to it, or a brief walk by. The cosmological argument comes in various forms. There's many different types. I think it started with St. Thomas Aquinas, early theologian of the early centuries. Forgot what century. Dang, weed really fucks you up. Don't do it when you're trying to philosophize. Or maybe you should, it's kind of good. The cosmological argument is that the universe had a beginning. Something had to cause the universe to come to a beginning, and that cause was God. Therefore, God exists. Or, I mean, that's the overtly religious sort of view that some traditions adopt, but the more philosophical aspect of it, and by the way, that wasn't the one that St. Thomas Aquinas, that he coupled some like the prime mover and the prime cause, and he talked about other features, but another way to put it is,